Okay, it just turned 12:03. My name's Scott Peterson. I work with the Northwest Gas Association, and this is our October webinar, AI and Natural Gas. We're super pleased to have Kimberly Denbo from the American Gas Association uh, join us. She's the Vice President of Security and Operations with the AGA. She's been there 25 years in multiple roles, but she currently leads their cybersecurity strategy and regulation action committee, where she's built a cyber and physical security program and helped stand up the downstream natural gas information sharing and analysis center for the AGA, and supports all their hazards emergency preparedness activities and pipeline resilience and reliability initiatives. And fortunate for us, and big reason why we have her on today is she's liaison with numerous federal agencies, including Homeland Security and the Department of Energy. So we're, as well as the Transportation Security Administration, Surface Transportation Security Advisory Committee. That can only be a federal agency with a name like that. So yeah, we're super pleased to have her today. She's does not have a formal uh, presentation. She's just going to walk us through the issues that the industry is facing with cybersecurity, and we'll take. We would like to take questions as she goes. You can. We have a really good group today, actually, and so I'm hoping you have really difficult, tough questions for her because she's ready for it. And we have a great opportunity to get those tough questions answered. So you can either just pop in and ask your question. I think these are casual enough to allow that, or you can type it into the chat, and I'll ask the question for you. So anyhow, with all that said, Kimberly.
Thank you, Scott. Um, yeah, so I did not, it's been a long few weeks, and I just thought, you know what? Why bore you guys with a slide deck? Let's just have some organic conversation around AI, artificial intelligence. And, AI it's all the buzz right now. Anyone would think that AI is the solution to all of our problems, with as much as people are talking about AI this and AI that. And so Dan, Scott, and Judy invited me here to share with you the pros and cons of AI, artificial intelligence, and how AI is being leveraged by natural gas utilities, some of the ones that are actually on this call. Um, Specifically for utilities, there are many pros uh, of AI, and I would depict the cons more as user beware considerations more so than cons. Like I said, I intentionally don't have a slide deck because my goal here of this webinar is for there to be more discussion than me as a talking head speaking to you. So I do invite you to turn on your video, and this way I can see if you're rolling your eyes at what I'm saying, and this also so I'm not alone. So with that, before we start, let's get a bird's eye view of AI. AI, like engineering, like law. Thank you, Mike. Always wonderful to see you. Um, like engineering, like law, like medicine, is an umbrella over a collection of subfields. Here, we'll focus on this particular webinar, we'll focus on traditional AI and generative AI. Now, traditional AI problem solves, thank you, Kevin, is trained to an existing data set and has inherent guardrails defined by rules the computer model relies on to solve problems, make predictions, and automate tasks. So let me repeat that. Traditional AI problem solves, is trained to an existing data set, and has inherent guardrails. That's very important. defined by rules the computer model relies on to solve problems, make predictions, and automate tasks. Thank you, Sean. Um, Generative AI, also known as GAI, learns from a data set. Thank you, Bill. So it learns from a data set and creates new material. So generative AI creates new material. Both have, oh, thank you. Both have incredible functionality. For example, an engineering group may use traditional AI to analyze pipeline inspection data to note which soil types have a more corrosive impact on buried pipe. The same engineering team may use generative AI, GAI, to optimize designs based upon a given set of constraints. In both examples, the engineers are relying on internally derived data, so the data integrity is known. Keep this point in mind because understanding the limitations of AI is critical to ensuring you can rely on the output. Remember, crap in equals crap out. And so you want to make, and for those of you who don't know me, I'm very straightforward. So if I offend you with any of that language, it's not like anything you don't already hear on the debates. But anyway, my apologies in advance if that word offended you. But do keep that in mind because understanding the limitations of AI absolutely critical because you want to make sure your output is reliable. So now let's go deeper into the topic of traditional AI. I took the old fashioned approach and actually reached out to industry operators rather than querying an AI model for this, which I could have. But I reached out to about a half dozen industry operators from large and small utilities. And though it took me longer to get the information about how they are using traditional AI, my objective was not speed, but rather relationship building. I share this because I learned a great deal and was able to experience the passion of the industry professionals while I was speaking with them and hearing their stories. That is something you don't necessarily get when you do an AI search, an AI request. So remember that AI has serves purposes, but there's parts of it that will leave you unsatisfied. So just keep that in mind. So I compiled some really neat use cases of traditional AI being applied by natural gas utilities, and I wanted to share some of these use cases with you because I just think they're so cool. One of my favorites, it pertains to damage prevention. And as Mike knows, he's heard me say this over and over before the government, our security risks, our risks really third party excavation damage. That's our leading terrorist, continues to be our leading terrorist, is third party excavation damage. So when this utility talked about using traditional AI for damage prevention, I just thought this was so cool. So the utility I spoke to relies on a traditional AI model to evaluate each locate ticket and assign a risk score. The information basically in each locate ticket application is entered into the traditional AI model, which then determines a risk score based on two parameters. The first parameter is the probability of a damage happening. This takes into consideration historical locate applications, application information, historical damage, excavator info. Is this one of those excavators that's always hitting a line? Geolocation, and then Esri data. And then the second part that is taken into consideration is consequence, which is based on another set of factors. So then the utility prioritizes damage prevention work based upon the risk score. So rather than all these applications coming in and the utility just going sequentially through the applications to go out and verify, they prioritize based upon a risk score, and then the daily goal of each damage prevention specialist is to visit the top 5 highest risk tickets. Now, tell me that is not cool. The damage prevention specialist goes out to the site basically to confirm that the locate is correct and then to build a relationship with the excavator. So if it is one of these excavators that has this tendency, like some of your fleet vehicle drivers, to hit a bollard, those non-moving devices, um, those excavators that have a tendency to always hit your line, those are the ones that they are considered highest risk, and so those tickets in those areas are going to be visited first to build this relationship with the excavator, by the damage prevention specialist. So the objective with this particular application of traditional AI is to reduce third party damage by verifying the locate and educating the excavator. And they do this by managing the risk, because that's what the business we're in is to manage risk, by identifying the top risks based upon the traditional AI model. Hey, Jordan. So kudos also to the commissions in Ohio and Indiana, because they allowed rate recovery for the use of this tool, because it's a data driven solution to increase safety. And so, definitely, if any of you have questions about that, don't hesitate to reach back to me. I'll definitely connect you with that particular utility because, again, when they're talking to the commissions about data driven solutions to increase safety, it's really hard for the commissions to say no. Some other really neat traditional AI use cases by gas utilities are work order routing. Some of you may use this. The AI model generates work assignments and routes for crews based on their location, their skills, and the availability of the crews. Another one, not too much different from this, that also deals with field work, is job site risk predictions. Basically, the model reports the job site risks and then assigns work based upon work type, terrain, time of year, weather, and worker skills. So it assigns the work based upon the risk predictions that come from the model. And what I love about this for the two that I just mentioned is that they take the worker skills into consideration. This is a good way to manage which workers really are qualified to be doing that type of work in that type of environment. And this helps reduce worker injuries and illnesses. It also helps you assess which workers could learn by maybe following those workers out there, so they could become better. And then, of course, we can't talk about natural gas without giving the corrosion control people some love because they're always feeling left out. But basically, traditional AI uses images of corrosion patterns to help classify the severity of the corrosion challenges that they have out in the field. And then this one is super cool. This is very geeky. If I have anyone on the call right now who's environmental responsibilities or just loves math, this is for leak quantification. Leakage rates are quantified by visually recording the growth rate and patterns of bubbles formed by a bubble solution poured on a leak location. So let's say you have a pipe and or even a connection and you put the bubble formula on it and you record as the bubble increases, there's a model, an AI model that helps you determine how much leak, how much emissions is coming off of that particular connection. So these are ways in which the models, traditional models, are being used constantly, have been used for years now, and they're serving good purposes. They're driving efficiency and effectiveness, improved safety. Now let's move on to generative artificial intelligence or GAI. Actually, before we do that, do we have any questions so far about the traditional models? Yes, Mike.
Hi, Kimberly. So can you comment on these tools? Are these all homegrown tools or are these things that these companies bought off the shelf and implemented? Do you know?
Yes. The answer is all of the above.
Uh,
So, for
mhm.
example, the bubble, the assessing the leak rate based upon the rate at which the bubble is increasing in size. Plus, I think that's kind of cool. I think that was from a consulting firm that was proposing that. I think it was a combination of a consulting firm and academia that was looking into this. The corrosion predictions definitely that's something that you can get from a vendor. I think the one with the damage prevention, with respect to the risk assessment, I think that that's a combination of off the shelf and then they specialized it to their needs. And so this is one of those things where you can look up the consultants in this particular industry in our industry, the natural gas industry, engineers, operations consultants, and ask them, are they using AI models? Now, the question then it goes to the next part, which is how are they using the AI models? Where are they storing the AI models? Where is the source of the data for the AI models? And that actually leads us into generative artificial intelligence or GAI. But did that answer your question, Mike? Great, great. And definitely, I can connect you with some of the companies that have done some of this stuff because I just thought it was so cool. I put it into my little book to keep. Um, but okay, so did we have any other questions? Because I'm not monitoring the chat.
No, we're good.
Okay, Scott, gotcha. Because I'm counting on you. All right. I know you're not going to lead me astray here, like some of this chat GPT stuff. No, just kidding. Okay, so GAI. Well, GAI is all the craze. It has great power. I will tell you that it has great power. You need to be cognizant of three things: data integrity, data bias, and data origin. Integrity, bias, and origin, all of which can be a challenge if the data is crowdsourced, meaning it's coming from the internet and being populated by anyone. Um, this actually gets to the audience interaction part. Okay, so everyone, whether you're on camera or not, I know you are able to do this. Those of you not on camera, I know you're shy, so you can do it. I can't see you, so don't worry about it, but do it anyway. Everyone, take your hands and touch your fingers and thumbs together like this. If you don't have a thumb, it's okay. Okay, thank you, Rusty. Yeah. All right, there you go. What shape is that? Anyone? It's a sphere, right? It's a sphere, right? Okay, you guys can put your fingers down now. Thank you to all those who did it, and I can't see you. I actually can see you because I work in DC and Big Brother's always watching. Just kidding. It's okay. It was a sphere, roughly the shape of the Earth. All right. So if we query a GAI model such as ChatGPT, which stands for chatbot that uses a generative G, pre-trained P, transformer T, uses a generative pre-trained transformer. If we tap a chat GPT to write us a description of the shape of the Earth, we expect it to describe the Earth as spherical. What if the crowdsourced data set for that description was had been primarily populated by the Flat Earth Society? Now, the response to our query wouldn't be wrong because the data set is the data set, right? But is it right? So, when leveraging GAI, we must ask ourselves, what are the biases in the data set? What is the integrity of the crowdsourced data? For generative AI, GAI, such as ChatGPT, Natural gas utilities are approaching this technology with cautious optimism. So there's plenty of opportunities to apply this technology. So don't walk away thinking Kimberly is such a hater of generative AI. I am not a hater, at least not of generative AI. I do there's some things, but not generative AI. Natural gas utilities are approaching this technology with cautious optimism. A utility would be wise to start with governance and training, bringing together a cross functional business group of, I know you guys aren't going to like this, legal, cyber. Which would you rather have, legal or cyber? No, just kidding. Legal, cyber, data governance, ethics, and compliance. Those should be the least cross function business functions that are in there: legal, cyber, data governance, ethics, and compliance. One utility actually blocked all GAI from the corporate network until its cross functional team analyzed the pros and cons of GAI and developed an internal position paper that was leveraged to inform governance, training, and access. So that seems kind of mean, right? You've got employees wanting to use Chat GPT and they're thinking, this is so cool. And then mom comes in and says, disconnect. You can't use that. Why? Why is the governance, training, and access so important? So I'm sure you all have heard of anecdotes where an employee uploads proprietary information into a GAI, a generative AI platform, with the hopes the tool may help streamline the data analytics and develop great new ideas so that the employee can run to the supervisor and say, voila, here it is. What that employee didn't realize is that as soon as that information was uploaded to the crowdsourced platform, what do you think happened? That information became available to everyone, including that company's competitor, the adversary, and your grandmother. Everyone in the general public able to see that. So, loss of confidential data and intellectual property are leading risks associated with the use of ChatGPT. Again, I'm not a ChatGPT hater. I'm just saying when you use crowdsourced data like this on a publicly available um, generative AI platform, these are the risks you need to be considering. Trust, but verify the output. Again, I'm not telling anyone not to use ChatGPT. I'm just stressing that governance and training cannot be underrated for GAI that depends on crowdsourced data. And I'm going to stress that. Governance and training cannot be underrated for GAI that depends on crowdsourced data, and especially GAI that is publicly available as opposed to a private model, such as an enterprise chatbot. So, some utilities, and I believe AGA is actually looking into one to use within AGA firewalls, some utilities are leveraging the power of a generative AI, but only internally in order to mitigate risks. So basically, they develop an enterprise chatbot, and a chatbot is basically a software application or web interface that's designed to, I say they're designed to drive us nuts when we're waiting to find out whether or not we can change our airline ticket. But really, they're designed to mimic human conversation through text or through voice interaction. So when you have an enterprise chatbot that leverages internal data sets to generate new material, you know the integrity of the data. So that, at least that part, is not questioned. There's other enterprise chatbots that allow crowdsourced data to come in, but it's of like a check valve. It can come in, but nothing can go out. And so by doing that, you're able to see what data is out there and then leverage that. The thing you need to be cognizant of is what I talked about earlier, was that data, crowdsourced data, populated by the Flat Earth Society? Was it populated by groups that maybe don't have our best interests intended? So Judy and I were talking about this earlier about how she was doing some research um, to back up. And Judy, I jump in because I can't remember what it was you were doing the research for. Um, but
Oh, it was just a blog idea I had, so I wanted to do some research on it. And all the information that came back was really negative on natural gas, and it was kind of, I shouldn't be shocked anymore, but it kind of shocked me.
right, and so we don't need those haters. So when we see that type of information, we have to go, wait, let's where's this coming from? Who is filling this data gap? And so you've got to know the source of your information, who's feeding that information, so that you know the integrity of your output. I will say there are a few GAI use cases I thought were particularly cool that I wanted to share with you all. First, one of the companies uses an internally developed chatbot to assist their customer service representatives for high bill analysis and to summarize caller intent. So basically, they look at the chatbot will look at the information coming in and then develop scripts that the customer service representative can use based on the information specific to that one customer. Then also, there was another one where it was field staff enable voice chatbot, and basically the field staff would voice record everything that they're finding out in the field, and then the chatbot would be used to summarize engineering standards, operation standards, and daily performance targets. That way, the field folks weren't spending their time searching through all of the policies, procedures. The chatbot would look it all up and lay it out for the field folks, as well as daily performance targets for field leaders and workers. So that's a great use of time as well, especially for those companies that have the manuals that are yay big. So I thought that was a really cool one. And then another one, I this is actually used a lot for operator qualification. Some companies are automating the development of OQ test questions. And so they put this into their GAI. And so what comes out is fresh, updated materials so that not that anyone would cheat, on OQ, but you've got new material so that there is less of a possibility of someone helping someone else in a less than constructive way. And so, this is something that would end up taking a trainer a lot of time to do, but you enter all that information into this chat bot, and then out comes these questions that can be used for that real time test. So this is where I talk about um, user beware with the chatbot. In the same way, and it's not just chatbot, but traditional AI as well. But in the same way, artificial intelligence can increase our efficiency and our effectiveness. It can also empower the bad actors. Malicious actors harness the power of AI. Almost sounds like the Avengers, right? But they can harness the power of AI the same way that we harness it to expedite our data analytics. They can harness it to develop more advanced cyber attacks, to analyze an operator's system, what information they can gather on the surface about the system, and figure out how to bypass security measures and expeditiously exploit vulnerabilities in the system. So, just as well as we can use AI, they are using AI as well. And the scary part here, people say I'm very intimidating. I don't know why. But the scary part here is that cyber criminals can train artificial intelligence to create large scale targeted attacks. You may have heard sometimes in the news about chatbots being used for denial of service attacks and whatnot. That's where these cyber criminals are leveraging the use of AI for these malicious purposes. Um, so one thing I wanted to definitely cover, and especially now since we are in the presidential election time, is the topic of deep fakes. Now, deep fakes, I'm sure most of you are aware of what this is basically when someone, and AI is used for this, you can take the message that you want the person to say, and then you have AI scan or comb the internet for all the videos of that person. And then AI will take the bits and pieces of each video, piece them together, smooth it out until it looks like that person actually said that exact message. And it's all based on videos that are existing online. Now, in reality, that person never said that, because in reality, that was just taken from all these other videos and put together. And so it was interesting. One of the utilities, I don't know if that utility is online right now, but one of the utilities, a large utility, actually, they paid an ethical hacker to develop a deep fake video of their CEO. So that ethical hacker went online, did all search the internet using GAI, search the internet for all of the videos, like the shareholder videos and all this other stuff, messaging from that CEO, pieced it all together so that it said a certain message. Then then they took that video and they showed it to the employees to see how many of the employees believed the message. It was used for internal training, and it was extremely, extremely convincing. The employees believed it. And AI, I mean, with the deep fakes, I'm sure you've heard also about the voices where they can imitate like a family member voice, or even a voice of someone you work with, the CEO voice, so that convincing, let's say, someone in accounting to transfer some money here, transfer a little bit of money there, until finally there's a lot of money that's been transferred around. So these are called deep fakes, and they are just floating around all over the place. So something to think about. If it seems out of place, it's probably out of place. If it doesn't seem out of place, but still you get this gut feeling, trust your gut. So in closing, before I open this up for everyone to kind of chat, with you guys have heard this in, is it Marvels or is it DC Comics? But with power comes responsibility. With AI power comes responsibility. There are many forms of AI models. We spoke about traditional AI, which analyzes existing data to problem solve. And then we spoke about GAI, which creates new information based upon existing data. Traditional AI has been used widely among natural gas utilities for well over a decade. And if GAI is used with the right guardrails and governance, it can improve efficiency and effectiveness. What we want to avoid is improving efficiency, but at the sacrifice of effectiveness. And then lastly, crowdsourced data is fine, but you want to make sure you verify it, because once again, crap in equals crap out. So with that, do we have questions that I can answer, or do we want to talk about anything about AI that kind of rocks y'all's world or keeps you up at night?
I have no questions in the chat, so folks, just raise your hand or pipe up. Now's your chance.
Scott, you're so inviting.
I know. It's my Scandinavian.
I can only imagine you on a date.
don't. We're,
So I'm
I will say
guessing
we
like
are super,
regulations and stuff against deep fakes. I mean, there's not much they can do, but
No, no. I mean, that's a great question because, yeah, Congress is always looking for something to do, and I'm not saying they do much, but when they do find something to do, one of the things they're trying to seek is how to address the topic of AI. And the truth is, when you look at deep fakes, it's hard to determine who pulled them together. I mean, for example, this one utility, they paid an ethical hacker to do it. But there are, like, I just came from the AGA board meeting and I had a guest speaker. Uh, his title is ransomware negotiator. Can you imagine that to be your title, ransomware negotiator? That's almost as cool as astronaut. And he talked about, and he actually was part of, played the biggest part in the Colonial Pipeline ransomware negotiations. And so they talked about how this world out there, it's this entire market, this entire ecosystem of let's just say people with malintentions, wanting to just not do nice things and for the purposes of making money. And some of them they do it for whatever their agenda may be. But so the idea of deep fakes, it could be used for extortion. It could be used for just any number of things to be able to just get money, what they consider a very traditional way. It could be actually one of the things I recently heard, which I thought was interesting, and this is not AI related, but I do think it's neat. And then we'll get to the questions. Everyone is aware of how 911, hi Natasha, 911 can do reverse calls, where the police can call out to everyone, or maybe some of the company utilities here, they can rely on 911 to call out to help conserve energy. Well, the question that came across was 911, how secure is 911? Could that, and Mike's heard this from me, could 911 be hacked? And then a message goes out to all of your customers to go out and turn off the valve on your meter. Now you have all these gas meters turned off, and then now they get another call to go out and turn the meter back on. So this is just where you want there's all these scenarios that could really keep you up at night. Melatonin helps, but all these scenarios that really make you think how secure is secure, and this great technology that we have out there, how great is that? I need to make sure I'm verifying, not just trusting.
Tracy?
Um, yes, hi. My question is, are companies starting to create policies and procedures around AI and the
Yes,
use of it?
yes, yes. Actually, that was, I will tell you, one one of the ones I was really impressed with, and I featured it, showcased it in my notes, is South Jersey Industries. They had a couple employees using the generative AI, and they're like, "Whoa, we realize this is going to increase your efficiency, but we don't know enough yet about AI to be, or generative AI, for you to be using, putting all of our information, our design engineering information out there for all to see. And so can we please give, we're taking we're removing access to any generative AI that's online, and we're forming this internal cross business function group, um, to look at all of the positives, the negatives, and develop a governance. And then what is required? Why would someone need access to that? And if we're going to give them access, have they been trained properly so that they are not just wild, wild west kind of thing, just going and posting all of our design information online because they're trying to look for a better way to design something. Now, you can invest, a company can invest in a GAI model or platform, where that type of information, like I said, could be, you can bring information in, but information won't leave. It's not set up for information to leave. Now that's clearly, that costs money, but that's different, and that's different than what's available online at low cost or no cost. But that also, the low cost or no cost comes with a risk. So it's a matter of understanding what the risks are with each model. And then also when you have contractors or consultants saying, oh, this is really great. Everyone's heard about cloud, put everything in the cloud, right? Sometimes I feel like my head is in the cloud, but put everything in the cloud. How secure is that information that you have in the cloud? How secure does it need to be? If it's a low risk information, put it up there. Who cares? But if it's high risk, or if it's like your SCADA, how certain are you that when you need that connectivity, it's going to happen? So this applies to artificial intelligence as well. Understanding what artificial intelligence subfield are you talking about? Are you talking about generative? Are you talking about traditional? Are you talking about others? And then understanding what the risks are with each. Does that sound good?
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was great. Natasha?
I thought perhaps you forgot my name there for a second, Scott.
Right? He had to chat GPT it.
Yeah,
I did. I
had to
did.
remind
I did.
himself. Yeah, I have a question, maybe not related to the use of AI, but more around policy as it relates to AI. So I'm seeing kind of an increase, or the conversations around AI in the legislative sessions picking up steam. And I'm curious, what role can utilities play as those conversations develop? Is there opportunity to integrate our natural gas companies into those conversations? I'm just curious. I
Yeah.
see John Rothland with Avista is on too, so he might be interested in this question too.
Okay. John, did you have anything you wanted to add to that great question? By the way, it's nice to see you, Natasha.
Nice
I've
to
been
see
with
you too.
I've been with Natasha for like a week now, on and off, so it's been great.
Nothing
John?
to add. No,
Okay.
nothing to add. Just love to hear the response.
Yeah, so when with anything that's legislation, anything at all, our job really as the natural gas utility, or as the lobbyists, or even as the operations and engineering people, and that's what I'm part of that community. Our job is to educate them, because they are just looking at the shiny, silver shiny thing, and squirrel, so easily distracted. Our job is to educate those folks, to educate the state commissions, public utility commissions, on what the risks are as well as what the benefits are, because they're only being told what the benefits are. For example, so Natasha, that's where, if you hear of what they're talking about, whether they're talking about generative AI, or even if they're not, even they're just using AI indiscriminately, you need to go in there and tell them, you know, you need to be more specific here, because you're creating an unintended consequence with the lack of specificity on whatever it is that you're creating. And to me, that is just so critically important. And I use the example, again, going back to cloud, because the public utility commissions, which I love, that I received an invitation one time to present at a NARUC, National Association of Regulatory Utility Commissioners, that's a mouthful, panel with some of the security platform vendors. They will go unnamed. But of course, those vendors were like, we got this. We can protect your stuff. You have connectivity all the time. Da, 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 da. And I got up there and I went, very politely, that's bull. You know, what what I told the commission is that folks need to read the fine print that's not there. And it's the same thing with AI, with educating legislators. You need to read the fine print about risks that's not written. And once you do that, and of course, legislation is not going to be specific, but you also don't want it to be without guardrails because then it creates potential to go off the rails. So I don't know if that helped any. I don't have anything specific other than that, but I'll talk to some of my lobbyists to see. We tend to rely a lot on the Chamber of Commerce here, because you can imagine AI is a huge thing with their members, and we're one of them. So.
Yeah, I think that answers my question. We generally, I mean, in Oregon, and I think it's the same way in Washington, generally rely on the statewide business chambers to engage more on the AI conversations. But, you know, working in the policy space, I always wonder, is there an opportunity for utilities or energy
Yeah.
providers and natural gas companies to integrate themselves more into conversations we wouldn't traditionally be in?
Yeah.
So just being opportunistic versus just kind of standing by as these conversations develop without our voice in the room. So.
No, Natasha, I completely agree with you. And Scott, I know we're running out of time, but too bad. We're having a good conversation. Um, I totally agree with you in that I think it's incumbent on the utility operators to educate their advocacy groups, their lobbyists, their legislative representatives, um, to just to educate the folks around them, to put it in layman terms and to educate. Otherwise, you end up with unintended consequences because they're looking to solve a big problem, and they end up creating a big problem for you, and they aren't always looking at it from a security perspective. They're looking at it such this is why with the commission and security, they were looking, I mean, the cloud environment, they were saying, oh, the streamlining, that's going to save money for the utilities, which means it's going to save money for the ratepayers. But you don't want to necessarily put your SCADA on the internet unless you've got some other things that's that's in your pocket. And so they weren't thinking. The commission's not thinking about that. They're looking at the ratepayer, and which that's their job. And so it's our job to educate them on the risks.
Kimberly, with all your interaction with federal agencies, how are they approaching this issue for the industry?
Yeah, so I know that Department of Homeland Security is working on some AI. Um, they're pulling together an AI study group, so to speak. I can't remember the formal name for it, but they have been charged, Department of Homeland Security, to understand this better and to try to figure out how guardrails could be set up. Sometimes I get nervous at stuff like that because once again, they Department of Homeland Security is responsible for 16 critical infrastructure sectors. Natural gas is part of the energy sector, and that is part of the 16. So there's not one solution for everyone, and so that's where this education. That's why I have a solid security team. I'm very grateful for. They're really sharp, and I have one of them involved in that. And I'll be honest with you, as we learn more, once DHS figures out what they're doing, we'll share out to the regional trades so that you all can be kept abreast as well. Or you can just invite me back.
Kimberly, I have a question for you.
Yeah.
Is there some policies AGAs suggest for smart meters and communication access to customers' homes?
Oh, that's a great one. I do not have anything like that right now. But that is something I will bring up to discuss internally to see. I will tell you that I was very loud at being not a fan of ROVs, remotely operated valves, just because of the potential for increased our cyber attack surface. And so this is one other thing where for me, I think smart meters are great as long as the protections are put into place. And I'm still trying to understand what those protections would be.
Okay.
Yeah. This is where on the electric side, they are, they're always on the cutting edge and they have smart meters and everything, but sometimes you don't want to get so close to the edge that you get cut. So that's where I'm kind of glad that molecules of gas move slower than the electrons of electric.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep.
There was a pipeline ransomware scare a couple years ago
Hmm.
that was made very public. What was the fallout of that?
Well, the fallout, you're talking about Colonial Pipeline ransomware incident. And the fallout of that was basically TSA, our pipeline security at the federal level is regulated by the Transportation Security Administration, and people are going, what? The people who frisk us at the airport? Yes, the answer is yes, because TSA has two divisions. They have the aviation, and then they have surface transportation. And surface transportation includes rail, over the road, mass transit, pipeline. It's just that we transport molecules instead of people and other products. And so basically that applied pressure on TSA to develop temporary cybersecurity regulations, and that's what those of you who run in that circle, Mike Kaufman's very familiar with it. Actually, he lives for talking about TSA security directives. Actually, he hates talking about security directives, even though his company's doing great with them. It is basically a security directive for those of you who know about how rulemaking is done. Rulemaking allows a comment period that comes with the proposed rule, and then the government has to adjudicate all those comments before the final rule comes out. With a security directive, the Transportation Security Administration administrator has the authority to issue a security directive, which is like regulations, if there is an imminent threat. So when Colonial Pipeline ransomware incident happened, there was a lot of politics in DC leaning on TSA to come out with cyber regs. Even though it was not the best approach, politics always prevails. And so TSA came out with very prescriptive security directives, which applied to the top 100 designated critical pipeline systems, many of them actually on this call. And so that required them they had 1 year to implement these regulations, which at that time, the first set that came out was prescriptive. In other words, it didn't just tell you to tie your shoe, it told you exactly that you had to do the 2 rabbit ears and you had to do it a certain way. And we were like, you've got to be kidding. This makes no sense. It does, and it applied to gas utilities, gas transmission, liquid transmission, and LNG. So you can only imagine just how difficult that was. But following that, and we've been ever since that, which was what a few years ago, we are now on our 4th year of security directives because they're reissued every year, and we have been able to work with TSA to get them to be risk-based rather than prescriptive, and that's been huge. And I will say that for Northwest Natural, for example, I see Northwest Natural on here. Matt Carlson was huge with that. Oh, New Jersey Natural Gas. Mike Kaufman was huge with that, with just trying to put logic back into the process. And so right now we're waiting for the proposed cybersecurity regulations for pipelines, and that's supposed to be out before the end of the year. And I've been assured by the administrator that they will be risk-based. So that's that's what happens when politics get in the way. For those of you who are familiar with, unfortunately, the San Bruno incident or the Merrimack incident, I say the Colonial Pipeline ransomware incident is equivalent to those, but for cyber.
Super. Well, this has been really good. Exactly what we were hoping to provide our members. We appreciate this, Kimberly. Is there last chance? Is there any other questions before we wrap up?
Scott, do I get a second date?
We'll see. Next time I go to DC, you may get a surprise call. All right, I don't see any questions. So you can we are using AI for this call. MeetGeek will prepare a summary of this that will be available. We make a video available and that Judy will send out to everyone that if they want to watch this again or share it with others. And then with your permission, Kimberly will share your contact information for folks so they can
Yep.
get all of you directly.
Yep, that sounds good. That sounds really good. And I really appreciate the invitation. I appreciate everyone making time on their Thursday to chat about security and all these fun aspects of it.
All right. Thank you again. We had a really good group, and I'm glad our members are taking advantage of this. And we have Judy, we have our webinar next month. What?
Is
Where?
Inga reporting on their 23 climate report? So that'll be Scott Yeager, and he's looking forward to it. So if you haven't registered, go to our website and register for that, or look for On the Burner or Open Access. You'll find a link in there as well.
All right.
All right. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks guys for joining. Thank you, Kimberly, again. And that's it. Enjoy your Thursday.
Thank you, everyone who turned their video on. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.